In the early morning of August 26, 1980, a man pretending to carry the IBM copy machine entered Harvey's Resort Hotel and Casino in State Line, Nevada. However, this was not an IBM copy machine. When Casino security removed the cover, they saw a metal structure that didn't look like office equipment. Beside it lay a note with a very alarming title: Stern warning to the management and bomb squad. Immediately, the FBI was called and they found out that this was a bomb. This note was no ordinary note, it was an extortion. Time was ticking and the investigation had to move fast. This bomb, like the note, was also not ordinary. It was undefeatable. At first glance, this didn't look like any bomb the FBI had ever seen. It was built like a tank. Reinforced steel on all sides, packed with over 1,000 pounds of dynamite. Every panel, every wire, and every component was placed with precision. This wasn't thrown together in a hurry, and on the outside, one detail stood out. A row of 28 toggle switches, no labels, no instructions, just switches. Each one is connected to a maze of traps, timers, and dead ends. The message left behind was clear: do not try to disarm it. But the team had no choice. They had to learn what they were dealing with. Because with a device like this, one wrong switch and everything could go south. John Birges Sr. didn't look like a criminal. In fact, to most people, he looked like success in a suit, a sharply dressed man with the calm posture of someone who had built something from nothing. An immigrant from Hungary, Birges came to the United States chasing a classic dream: freedom, fortune, a future. And for a while he had all three, but behind a polished smile was a secret. Birges was addicted to gambling. Not penny slots or casual bets, but high-stakes blackjack in the neon-lit halls of Lake Tahoe. He played big, and he lost bigger, tens of thousands at a time, again and again. And like many gamblers, he believed he could win it back. But he never did. By 1980, everything was gone. His money, his business. And in his eyes, there was only one culprit: the casinos. That's when John Birges Sr. made a decision. If the casinos had destroyed him, he was going to return the favor. He started building a bomb. This bomb had 8 triggering mechanisms. From the inside, this bomb was isolated with thin aluminum foil placed between 2 layers of neoprene. If the bomb squad tried to use any type of drill, the tip would get in contact with the foil and complete the electrical circuit, which would activate the detonator. This electrical circuit was connected with a detonator on one side and a battery on the other. Any trigger that completed the circuit activated the detonator. John Birges knew that this was not the only method the bomb squad could use. If FBI tried to remove the screws from the top, the contacts that were placed below would close, which would again result in activating the detonator. In his note, John said that as much as 1/4 to 3/4 of a turn was enough to cause an explosion. However, if they somehow succeeded in removing the screws, pressure switches that are also used in car doors were placed below the lid. If the lid was slightly moved, it would open the switches, resulting in completing the circuit. These were just 3 of 8 triggering mechanisms, and John knew that if the FBI could somehow get through the first 3, they would be able to defuse the bomb. That's when he added a 4th mechanism. "Don't try to flood or gas the bomb," said the note. Inside was a float switch similar to the one found in the toilet. If the water or other liquid was inserted inside a bomb, the float would rise and, at some point, the switch would be triggered. If the bomb was in any way moved or tilted, a metal pendulum placed inside the aluminum pipe would detect the movement. This contact with the foil would then close the circuit, which would result in activating the detonator. If the FBI tried to remove the upper part of a bomb from the bottom one, a tin foil placed between them would detect it. This would also complete the circuit. The FBI knew that inside this bomb were 3 solid-state irrigation timers, each set at different times. These timers could be set anywhere between 1 hour to 8 days. However, these timers had to be turned on when the bomb was delivered, so in order to do that, John had to introduce another triggering mechanism. There are 3 automatic timers, each set for 3 different explosion times. Only if you comply with the instruction in this letter will you be given instructions on how to disconnect the first 2 automatic timers and how to move the bomb to a place where it can be exploded safely. Toggle switches, more precisely 28 of them, were the only way John could turn the timers and pendulum switch on. In order to defuse the timers, FBI had to know which of these switches were connected to timers and which could complete the circuit. 3 or 5 of these switches were connected to timers and a pendulum switch. Some were dummies, and some were connected to the circuit. However, the chances of finding the switches that turn off the bomb were very slim. The FBI had to find other ways of defusing the bomb. John Birges demanded $3 million in cash. No negotiation. In his words, the bomb was real, undetectable, and impossible to disarm. If the money wasn't delivered, the consequences would be catastrophic. The FBI read the note and stared down at the box. It was massive. Over 1,000 pounds of steel and dynamite. Bomb technicians, military experts, and engineers were flown in from across the country. For 2 days, they studied it. Every wire they traced led to more questions. Every solution came with the same answer. This thing wasn't meant to be defused. It was meant to explode. The FBI tried to pay the ransom but ultimately failed. In the end, they couldn't stop the bomb, so they made a decision. They built a remote-controlled machine to approach the bomb. If the 2 boxes could be severed using a shaped charge of C4 explosive, it might disconnect the detonator wiring from the dynamite. On August 27, 1980, the charge was fired. A moment later, Harvey's casino's lobby erupted in thunderous blast. 3 floors were blown apart, and glass, steel, and concrete rained down. The damage was immense. Over $18 million, but luckily no one was hurt. John Birges thought he had built the perfect crime, but he left clues behind. Eventually, the feds came knocking. He wanted revenge for a casino that ruined his fortune. Instead, he became the architect of one of the most infamous bombings in US history.